Responding to a written parliamentary question, Acting Police Minister Professor Firoz Cachalia revealed that the report of the Independent Police Investigative Directorate into the break-in and theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala Phala farm has been declassified. Cachalia emphasized that IPID was not investigating the main case of breaking in and theft, but rather the conduct of SAPS members who handled the case. It was further noted that IPID investigation reports are not public consumption and will only be accessible through proper legal processes. SABC News executive producer Pimani Baloyi joins us now to take a look back at the Phala Phala theft story and reminds us of how we arrived to this moment. And Pimani, you followed this and covered this extensively as a reporter in Limpopo, and you were there on the day that the story broke. And of course, you had an opportunity to sit in courts when it all unfolded with the bail hearing of the accused there. But I want us to go back to the initial accusations and allegations made by Arthur Fraser. What did Arthur Fraser allege the involvement of the police were?
So the main allegation, Oliver, by Arthur Fraser was that police actually did a covert investigation, that they went in after hearing of this break-in, they were called in, they did an investigation, but number one, did not open a case docket, which in South Africa, that is totally going against the law. And you can imagine, this was a farm that belonged to the president, who's supposed to be upholding the law. So number one, the SAPS went in, they did not report this anywhere. Number two, he alleged that they abused resources. Resources were used to hunt down the alleged suspect, and that there was also an allegation that they were even bribed these alleged suspects to keep quiet to ensure that this operation, this investigation that they did does not go out. But the third one is that police were actually violent, that they actually kidnapped some of the alleged suspects who sort of went through this break-in and theft. And what was interesting about that first one, this last one about the kidnapping, is that one of the three accused who are currently being tried for this break-in and theft, Oliver, who has been labeled the mastermind, Mr. Emmanuel David, actually said during his bail application, he confirmed, number one, that he was actually kidnapped on more than 3 occasions. And when he applied for bail, he said, number one, there were 3 groups of people who did this kidnapping. The first one, he said, was police, which is what forms basis of this IPID investigation that we were talking about, Oliver. But also, he says the second group was actually criminals who were looking for money, who told him that we've heard that you stole money, millions of dollars from the president's farm, we want it. And he says the third group, he could not tell whether it was police who were masquerading as criminals or criminals who were masquerading as police. So that's the basis of that investigation, Oliver.
So let's talk about how the investigation actually unfolded. We know through at least the parliamentary ad hoc committee that existed at the time, as well as what had transpired in court, that there was a farm manager and a lodge manager who engaged police at that time, but it was not ultimately the police that was investigated by the public protector, for instance, and that was Captain Rueda. And I want us to speak about Captain Rueda as a character, but tell us what the farm manager and the lodge manager told us.
So these 2 individuals that we cannot name, because, Oliver, the court ruled, the Modimule Regional Court ruled that none of the witnesses in that matter can be identified by the media, but we could use their sound bites. And these 2 managers testified. One of them said that he's the one who made the sale for buffaloes, and he hid the money, he kept it under that sofa.
Mustafa.
Yes, Mustafa is the one who hid the money, and he's the one who actually noticed that the money wasn't there. But what was quite interesting when it comes to the conduct of the police, which the IPID investigating is that they couldn't tell where these police officers who came in after police were called in, after the president was called in and he said police officers would come in, they couldn't tell where they were coming from, because the jurisdiction for that investigation was in Villa Villa, as the farm is in Villa Villa. But they said under oath that they couldn't tell where the police officers were coming from, but also they couldn't tell if there was indeed a case docket or what happened after that. They said, no, we took it, the president would be getting updates. So it confirms that indeed, when the first break-in happened, there wasn't a court docket. None of the staff members who were physically present during the break-in could say, we know that police officer A took our statement, and after that there was a court case docket that we could follow up on.
Yeah. We know then from the Public Protector's investigation and from the President's own statement, several in fact, that he had instructed his personal protector to look into the matter, who was a police officer. The Public Protector said the President was well within his rights to do so and didn't need to go further than that. But the Public Protector's report was quite damning against Police Officer Rueda, who was meant to then carry out this investigation. What were the findings then? Of course, that forms part of the basis of what IPID would have been investigating.
Yes, Oliver, that's quite interesting because in the Public Protector's report, Wally Rueda was found to have he wasn't authorized to do what he did, to investigate to start with, but also to conceal the outcome of that investigation. But just recently, Wally Rueda was cleared in an internal disciplinary process as an officer of the law.
Oh, wow.
So these are quite interesting findings, which it would be quite interesting to find out what the IPID did, because the report says, Oliver, you stated earlier that people need to do that legal application to have access to it. But it would be nice, it would be, I'm sure media houses are already have filed these applications, and even members of the public could have put in that applications. But what will be interesting to find out is if there's collaboration between the findings of the IPID and what Arthur Fraser said. We do know at this point, when applying for bail, Emanuela David, the alleged mastermind, confirmed most of the things that were said by Arthur Fraser, the kidnapping allegation, his family being violated and targeted. He even at some point showed court a bullet wound that he says he was shot at by police officers while he was trying to run away from them. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what are some of the allegations by Arthur Fraser that were found to be true. But the other thing that Arthur Fraser said when it comes to the abuse of resources is that the SAPS seemed to have, at some point, even followed Emanuela David to Namibia when he had actually gotten into Namibia illegally during COVID-19 restrictions. So this was state money that was abused by police officers, and if IPID has findings that are regarding that, it's going to be quite interesting.
And of course, the Public Protector said that it was outside her mandate to investigate that part of some of the allegations made by Arthur Fraser. Pimani, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it.